Right, I'm going to need your opinions on this one, so make sure you drop me a comment below, and why not hit the subscribe button? That's always a fun thing to do. But we have just had the most recent episode of SmackDown. It's the 20th of July, should you want to understand where we are if you're watching this in, like, I don't know, 2098, too low. That's how long YouTube is going to last. But once again, we had a very familiar ending that we have had recently. Cody Rhodes teamed with somebody new, sort of. It was Kevin Owens. They have a match with A-Town Down Under. They beat them. Out come the Bloodline, and mostly thanks to Jacob Fatu, Cody and Kevin get totally run through. Cody gets thrown through Alley announce table. And Tama Tonga did that crazy thing to Kevin Owens where he put a steel chair over his neck and threw him into the ring post. Now, we talk about this a lot. That's most definitely attempted murder. And why nobody is arresting the Bloodline is a really good question. But I did see some chatter on the internet, people going, oh my gosh, it's so dull, we've done the same thing over and over again. But I actually think in order to establish these kind of groups as badasses who are going to take everybody down unless you can find help, you do need to kind of run it into the ground a little bit. I suppose there's always a fine balance to these things. NWO would be way too one way and not really works, but the Hurt Business would be too far the other way in the sense we never really gave them enough time to establish anything. So I'm okay with it. However, this has now fed into an even bigger conversation, which is what I want to talk about today, as well as SmackDown as a whole, where people are like, oh my gosh, it's obviously setting up a big Roman Reigns return. The Roman Reigns return is going to be great. He's going to get a massive pop. But if he does come back at Hot WrestleMania, aka SummerSlam, and he does help Cody Rhodes in his match with Solo Sikoa, then oh my gosh, what have we done to Cody Rhodes? What a crappy babyface. He needs help from somebody else. It's going to end Cody, and everything's going to die, and Santa Claus is going to be on the floor crying, and all the babies in the world would be like, I can't go on. It's just going to be a cataclysmic event. And listen, I need to make this clear because people get very, very upset these days, which is totally cool. You're allowed your opinion. You're allowed that worry. But when I sat there and I started to ponder it, all I could think about was comic books. Because I see comic books and wrestling in a very similar way. They are make-believe worlds with superheroes in the middle of them who can be good, and they can be bad, or they can be shades of grey, etc. And given that there are so many comic books in the world, I'm a big DC guy, mostly because of Batman. But I like Superman as well. And so many times, I mean, there was a stupid movie about this. It wasn't very good, but still, I'll be reading it, and all of a sudden, Batman will be in trouble. And who turns up? Superman. Sometimes Superman will be in trouble. And who turns up? It's Batman. And they kind of hate each other, but they kind of get along. And because we're all nerds and we're all geeks deep down, we actually go, this is the best thing ever, because two people that we have affiliated ourselves with and we get excited about are now being buddies, even though there's that underlying tension. They may as well just kiss and get it over with. That's how I see Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. Maybe people interpret wrestling different from me. And that's really important, right? That's what makes the world go round. Or in Superman 2, Superman makes the world go round. And he turns back time to save Lois Lane or make her forget whatever the flub that was. Strangest movie of all time. But in no realm and in no reality, especially one with Zod, am I going to be like, Cody Rhodes, you're such a weak baby face, because a group who have been established as a bunch of killers and have taken out all of his mates bring the mythical Roman Reigns back to the arena, to the ring, to the federation, to the entertainment, whatever the hell you want to call it, and he lends a little bit of a hand. I don't think it matters. And I suppose my big gripe would it be, if we're not going to do stuff like that because we're so worried about how it may affect the integrity of the character, then the creativity and the fun of pro wrestling is just going to be thrown away. I understand that it's not the same. And in fact, this is a terrible example, so what am I doing? But I can't help how my brain works. It always takes me back to late 1999 when Mankind beat The Rock for the WWE title on that. Probably the biggest pop of all time, right, Steve? Austin comes down, everyone goes crazy. You should all go watch that reaction because it's hilarious. Not only does the noise never die down, but you can pick out individual people in the crowd and watch them having euphoric experiences. It's absolutely wonderful. But you could have made the argument, I suppose, well, Mankind is such a weak champion because of all of this. And probably people did at the time. And there was a little bit of a difference there because Mick Foley just in general had way more sympathy than anybody. But even then, I wasn't like, oh man, I can't believe it. I was just so happy and so over the moon that Mankind had did it. I didn't care how he had done it. I love the fact that we had all this stuff going on with the corporation and Vince McMahon, The Rock, and Steve Austin. It was like a Professor Layton puzzle with multiple parts, and that's probably how I'll feel the same here. I'll get a huge rush of adrenaline when I'm like, oh my gosh, Roman Reigns is back, especially because that SummerSlam arena is going to go crazy. You get the reaction of the Bloodline, you also get the reaction of Cody Rhodes, and I also just think it tells a wonderful story, right, for twofold. One, they should probably have that conversation where Cody's like, I never asked you to help me, I could have done it by myself, and then you've planted that seeds in people's heads. But also two, you can have people like Kevin Owens going Randy Orton being like, why did you accept accept Roman's help? Are you in on this? Did you call him? What's going on? And from there, you can probably lead to Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes, which is clearly what we're going to do after Cody does de-associate with the bloodline, or that feud just runs its course. So I actually think this is really, really smart. I think it opens up the door to have way more fun with the storylines that we are telling, and maybe that even means Kevin Owens sides with Randy Orton and RKO, that's what they're called, right? Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because it's RKO. What an idiot I am. Then they're sort of bad guys, but as all good bad guys in 2024, they do have a justification for it, because Randy Orton got taken out by Roman Reigns and friends for a year or whatever it was. Kevin Owens had a torrid time for the last 4 years. He's always fighting them. So you would look at Cody going, man, I think it's very curious that the head of the table, the original tribal chief, did come back and do this. So I am totally fine with it. I don't think it makes Cody look weak. I think it is what a Marvel movie would do. It's what any kind of those movies would do. It's what an action movie would do. And as long as people address it and they talk about it and you ground these characters in reality, I really don't see a problem with it. And I'm very excited for it. I think it'll be really, really good. And, you know, characters should have layers. Otherwise, and I love John Cena, I think he probably is the greatest WWE superstar of all time. But there was that period when we did run into Super Cena and it got a little bit dull. Whereas if he could have been layered a bit more and he could have had more shades of grey, and sometimes he did lose and it meant something, that could have changed the game as well. So we should do that with Cody. He's such a relatable chap anyway. Maybe sometimes, maybe in this instance, he wouldn't have been able to do it without the help of Roman Reigns. That's okay. That just makes him an infallible hero. There's nothing wrong with that. Not everyone just needs to come in and go raw and beat everyone all the time, unless your name is Bron Breakker. Different video for a different day. But that is what I like what we're doing here. WWE completely understands that they're focused on SummerSlam. We need to big up before pulling the trigger, and the more Solo Sikoa and his new buddies can run wild, I think they achieve that. And listen, it doesn't mean you need to do that all of the time. A thing that came out, I believe, in the Wrestling Observer newsletter yesterday was that one of the reasons Bron Breakker didn't win at the last show, which I've already forgotten the name of because I'm an idiot, Money in the Bank, is because they did want to hold it off to Hot WrestleMania. It's the reason I call it Hot WrestleMania. I mean, I'm an idiot. But also WWE are desperate to give people these moments so they can get to August and go, ha ha, we have another WrestleMania that we can put over 2 nights. Sometimes you don't need to do that. Bron Breakker winning at Money in the Bank would have been totally fine. Once again, I was cool with it because I am standing Sami Zayn. I ain't going to ever support him not winning after what we had to go through in 2017, 18, 19, and 2020. But you don't want to fall into a pattern where an Intercontinental Championship can't change hands on a so-called B show or whatever it may be. But again, that's just to show you both sides of the argument. So I like Bloodline 2.0. They definitely need to pay their electricity bill because they all sit in the dark all the time. And Jacob Fatu, once this all runs its course, has to be put on a singles push. Probably has to become the WWE champion. Like, it's very similar to when the gimmick is far better. But I remember when Umaga became Umaga, everyone was like, oh, why are we doing silly things like this in 2010, 11, 8, whatever it was. But he was so good as a wrestler, and he was so intimidating. He had that amazing Extreme Rules match, whatever it was, with John Cena, that it could have come out at Santa Claus again. He could have come out as Santa Claus, right? And nobody would have cared because he was so good at getting himself over and he was so good at being intimidating. Jacob Fatu has all those same attributes. But again, his gimmick is just, I'm a killer. So I hope probably moving into 2025, we figure out how to do that. He probably has to beat Solo Sikoa at one point. He's so talented, I can't see him getting booed for very long. And he can talk too. Plus, when he does interviews, he's a very charming chap. So he may have all the things we need to do here. So all that was good. The only other thing, just transitioning across into the rest of SummerSlam, SmackDown, not all the women's division stuff felt wishy-washy, but it's one of those episodes of SmackDown where I did particularly raise my eyebrow. You had the stuff between Nia Jax and Bayley. Very excited for that match. I think it's going to be good. I think ever since Nia has returned, she has proven that she's way better than, well, either people expected she was going to be or she just raised her own internal bar. And Bayley's booking since WrestleMania has not been great, right? I kind of feel like she's been lost in the shuffle again, which sucks. She's not on posters, etc. But she's Bayley. She's beloved. She is one of the most underrated talents, I would argue, ever. And it's awesome that she has got the championship. So get to SummerSlam, everything's going to be okay. But in a back and forth promo, when someone says the reason you hurt me all those years ago is because you're big, clumsy, and reckless, you're just telling the audience, oh yeah, the performance went I want to point out, I don't really care. It's a nerdy, geeky thing, but it did hit me this time. But you are breaking that fourth wall. You're unsuspending the disbelief and saying, oh, it's all a performance. And the reason you injured me is because you made a mistake. Whereas, of course, if we take it all as read, Nia Jax should be in there and be like, yeah, I'm the bad guy. Of course I'm going to injure you. I'll rip your arm off and I'll smack you over the head with it. So I enjoy insider baseball, but this is why it's a treacherous line to cross, because if you do fall one way, you do kind of muddy it up. And then we got to the Chelsea Green versus Bianca Belair match. I loved it for a 60 seconds laugh-a-thon, because Chelsea Green goes to do the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, surprise roll-up, and Bianca Belair reverses it it's just lovely, man, because Chelsea Green sells all this stuff so well. Chelsea Green should be the United States Women's Championship if that does get introduced on SmackDown. There's no if, buts, or maybes in my book. But then Isla Dawn and Alba Fire come on the screen and say some weird stuff about the tag team titles. And it's over so fast, it gets me worrying again that we're not focusing on the women's tag team titles, which has been my bugbear for a while now. I think we have so many good teams, as we see on the screen, but we're not kind of giving it the love that we are other stories. But then you jump forward to the Tiffany Stratton Meechin match, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was really good. Thought I did a far better job of building Nia Jax and Bayley. But then Mia Yim wins with the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment. So why doesn't Chelsea Green just lose with the KOD? It would have been fine. You would have still got the same effect from that. Now, these are minor details and they don't matter. And the surprise roll-up is a fine finish. But when you do it too much, there is now, well, it's just the boy who cried wolf. It's the law of diminishing returns. It's the same for all professional wrestling, by the way. It's not just WWE. Although they did go crazy with it in 2021. We did a counter. We did over 100 of those over a 52-week period. That I just want to make sure that it's getting the same amount of attention, the same amount of love. Because Tiffany Stratton is the Money in the Bank holder. Awesome. She's so good. Meechin can beat her here, and it's not a problem. Meechin's been kicking ass recently. Was glad she got her due. We've already talked about Bayley and Nia Jax, and I thought this did a far better job, like I've said, in building their match at SummerSlam. So all of that was pretty damn good. But the other stuff was just a bit like, I just feel like we could do more with it. We probably need to do more with Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. They should just be demanding tag team title matches. They should be going out there and winning matches as a tag team, so they're undeniable, as Cody Rhodes would say. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens with that. Again, there's so much talent there. I'm just hoping that one day it's going to come good. And I don't know. You have to tell me about that one in the comments. But nothing about this was bad, right? Just my own personal tastes. And the highlight of the whole thing to me was the LA Knight and Logan Paul stuff. I think this is Logan Paul's best promo that he's ever done. I mean, he went into the whole, man, you're trying to achieve all this stuff inside the ring and you're really good, but what have you actually got? Whereas I've got all this stuff inside the ring, outside the ring. I'm the man. It just sounded like a right prick, which you can argue until the cows come home. But LA Knight is just untouchable with this stuff. You can say whatever you want to him, and it's just ping, 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 like bullets just flipping off him. Probably could have done without Logan Paul calling him Sean. I don't know why it made me laugh so much. Oh, I'm going to use your government name. But obviously Logan Paul uses Jake Paul fighting Mike Tyson and basically, put himself on the same bracket. Where's your balls? Why aren't you facing me? And as I mentioned, ups and downs of SmackDown, click this card on the screen and subscribe to What Culture as well. If you insult a wrestler's testicles, they cannot handle it. So even though Logan Paul has only recently in the last couple of years become a sports entertainer, he has learned that if you insult my groinal region, I will have a meltdown and I will accept any challenge. They get into it. We're going to do it at SummerSlam. We've said this on many videos, so let's not go over it too much. But LA Knight absolutely has to win that match. And much like we did with Gunther on Raw, he should hold that US Championship for ages. They're going to keep manifesting itself into existence, because I think if we do that, that belt will get the sort of kick up the tuchus that the IC belt had over 2023. And LA Knight having it would just be the best, because he hasn't actually, Logan Paul, what he said had some merit to it in terms of the last year or so. LA Knight hasn't done anything of any superb magnitude. Had the match with Roman Reigns, that was good. He was in a couple of Money in the Banks, but he's never walked away as the guy that we're focusing the spotlight on. And that's what I think him and the Universal title should do for each other. And I think by the end of that, he will be in the upper echelon of guys. He did an interview with Cody Rhodes where he believes that maybe the audience en masse don't see him in that top tier. And I think he probably has a point, but I think that comes down to booking and storylines and the machine getting behind you, which is what I think we can do here. So I'm very excited for that match. I think it will surprise a lot of people, and I think it will be a feel-good moment when he does win. Very sad, quick aside, that Bianca Belair, that Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews went on this one. Did like Santos Escobar funny LA Knight saying, oh, you didn't pin me in that triple threat, so we're going to do that next week. And yeah, the heavy tease throughout all of this, of course, was Cody Rhodes and the Randy Orton stuff. I mean, Cody may as well looked in the camera and go, oh, Randy, I love you so much. You're like a brother to me. You'd never turn your back on me. And of course, he will do that. And Andrade and Carmella Hayes was just an excellent match. Like, I think you want one quote-unquote banger on every episode of television that we do have in 2024, just because we're so used to it now, because we are spoiled. This sort of ties into the other things we've talked about. Both guys just desperately need a direction. You can't just have them having random matches all the time. Andrade won, so do we turn him heel and he could be the first opponent for LA Knight? I don't know. Carmella Hayes is just great. He's fantastic. He has adapted to the main roster effortlessly, but he's not picking up W's at the moment. And it's not even really about wins and losses. It's about stories. And that's just what both of these guys need. Like, I have no idea what Andrade is going to do next week. I have no idea what Carmella Hayes is going to do next week. I'm a bit worried we get to SummerSlam, we just rematch them. Don't think that would happen on quote-unquote real sports, because Andrade just won clean. So why would you do it again? Not that I have anything against it. On a bigger stage, they'd probably do something even better. I just mean here, I need something more so I know where we're going. And I would imagine that, yeah, when we come out the other side of the LA Knight stuff and he is the US champion, we need to rebuild that scene. And that would be a Carmelo Hayes, that would be an Andrade. Doesn't seem like Baron Corbin, Apollo Crews will be involved in that because they'll be a tag team. There'll be other people I'm not thinking of right now. It's probably why we should have kept like a Cameron Grimes. He would have into that too, but we do not need to get taken away from that. A lot of people talking about the fact that Cody wasn't wearing a suit. I mean, I thought this is because he never wears a suit when he knows he's going to fight, and he was ready to fight. But overall, look, am I pumped for SummerSlam? I absolutely am. I think Cody and Solo is a worthy main event. I'm the minority there, so maybe I need to look at myself in the mirror. I think Gunther versus Damian Priest, they are doing everything to make you care. It now sounds like Seth Rollins is going to be the special guest referee between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. That is going to be sports entertainment crazy. So I'm all pumped for that. And then you've got obviously Bayley versus Nia Jax, and you have got Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan, which is, I mean, look at the ratings and stuff like that. It's one of the number 1 or number 2 stories. If Cody and the Blood are number 1, nipping at their heels or maybe even ahead of them is Dom, Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, because people love soap opera stuff and they love romance nonsense. They just do. So I think SummerSlam on paper as a whole card, it reminds me massively of SummerSlam 2002, when you just watch the whole thing and you're like, amazing, amazing, brilliant, amazing. And we haven't even mapped the whole thing out yet. And, you know, we're going to get Bron Breakker versus Sami Zayn. Bron Breakker probably going to win that. LA Knight versus Logan Paul. LA Knight's probably going to win that. So it's going to be a real moment of change. And we go to Raw and SmackDown. We're going to have new champions and new stories and new this and that. And we're still... But what does Ilya Dragunov do? What do a bunch of other people do? We have absolutely no idea. Do we get a return? Is Becky Lynch there? I mean, I very much doubt it, but it's an argument you can make. So, good week for WWE. I thought Raw was very, very good. I thought SmackDown was very, very good. Just getting me pumped and ready for SummerSlam. And this is probably going to be the last single night SummerSlam ever. So if you like a single night pay-per-view, premium live event, you should absolutely get into this. But yeah, it's all good with me. I'm very excited about the direction, especially coming out of it, because WWE has got very, very good at sort of focusing on where they want to go. And at the end of August is Bash at Berlin, or whatever we're calling it, the Berlin show. You'd have to imagine that Gunther is either the champion there, or he's going to win the belt at that, and Damian Priest somehow sneaks through at SummerSlam. And if we do that, you're going to get a Backlash moment, a Puerto Rico moment, a France moment. That's going to rule. Then we're moving towards Survivor Series, which is probably going to be War Games. That's probably going to be original Bloodline versus new Bloodline. Roman Reigns will also be back in the fold for the second half of 2014. 24. So all is good right now. And I think the good thing about things being good is we can get a little bit more nitpicky about maybe the things that aren't sort of hitting the heights we know they can. But it doesn't mean the overall thing isn't kicking ass. But the most important thing is I need to hear from you. You can do that in the comments below. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the bell, ding, ding, notification crew, and click that video right now. Me talking about wrestling. Also, GorillaMind.com/Simon. Use code Simon, get 10% off, or sometimes 25%, 35%. You have to go to the website and check it out. But again, I'm way back on these now. I was finding I'm over my shoulder injury so I can train again. It's been 2 months and I was very, very sad panda. If you just want to train at home, make sure you go to Agogo Fitness. This is AEW superstar Anthony Agogo's new app. You can just go Simon20 to get money off. Very happy to actually help build that just a little bit. It's Anthony's idea, but a privilege to be on board. Patreon.com/Simon316. I'm at 316 on Instagram and Twitter and Threads. Simon J. Miller on TikTok, Simon Miller on Cameo. Got loads of them from nowhere the last 24 hours. That was fun, so I'll do those video messages later. Get your Simon Miller Pro Wrestling tees at Pro Wrestling Tees and search for my name. Same with SamsonAthletics.co.uk. Just a bunch of my stupid sayings on some material, and you can wear them all in. Don't know why I said that, but I did. Goodbye.